Marketing is really just training your customer to be the right customer for you and your brand. If I want them to know something about how a product is made, or I want them to understand why something costs what it does, I explain that to them. We have like a miniature Poshmark on our site where you can buy and sell used Ewer to other Ewer fans, and you can get brand credit or you can get cash. And so if somebody buys something on final sale and it doesn't sell or it doesn't fit them, we have a built-in platform to help them resell it so that they haven't lost out on that sale. So that's been a fun channel for us to push to.
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Sometimes the best businesses start by accident. Mallory Ottariano launched her brand on Etsy in 2012. That's a long time ago, as a side hustle. Before she knew it, it was matching her full-time income, and she decided to go all in. Fast forward, she's built a 7-figure clothing brand without paid ads until recently. How she do it? Well, let's find out. Hey, Mallory, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Brian, thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I'd love to address that. The fact that you have built a 7-figure business without spending money on ads. Well, there are many companies struggling with, things like high, CPAs or cost to acquire a customer, high CPMs, cost per 1,000 impressions, like all technical lingo, but, people are struggling with the rising cost of ads, and you managed to somehow grow to 7 figures without that. So could you please tell the audience, what was your, biggest driver of growth?
Well, I think the thing to draw on first is that it's been a long time. I've had a focus on building a brand for many years. So I've been doing this for 13 years. So 13 years of community building is a huge way that I've managed to grow without ad spend. It's constant engagement with the customer. And the main channel that I use to do that is Instagram. I make a lot of content, but it wasn't always the main driver. I did a lot of events back in the day, but I've really focused on community building through free or relatively free ways. I hack a lot of things, like doing a lot of my own photography still. And yeah, I think that getting in front of people with good organic content in the last 5 to 7 years has totally been the main driver of growth.
Yeah, 13 years is a lot.
It's a long time.
Things changed a lot, pre-COVID, after COVID, and many things, technically speaking, I don't know if you're familiar with that or everyone in the audience, but the iOS 14 update in 2021 basically is the moment in which advertisers lost the tracking, the precious tracking, that you see in your phone, like, would you like to be tracked or not? When you open an app and most people say no. And before, they didn't need to say yes. They need to go to manually to the settings of an app and say, no, I don't want to be tracked. So everyone was tracked, like by default. So it was a big moment. So many things happened, right? So one thing that we've been discussing here at length is the need for brands to go beyond the storefront to be successful. Because back in the day when you started, and it's funny that you didn't do things that way, which is a good thing, many brands had an easier time, let's say, sourcing products, manufacturing them, or sourcing them from wherever, putting them on a Shopify store and selling them without doing anything else. Now it's not a thing. So back then, you already did that stuff. When, beyond the storefront, could you please walk me through that journey? What inspired you to do that, and what specifically did you do?
Yeah, well, I've always thought that there's a big differentiation between a product and a brand. I think that's been another reason why I have, until very recently, not run ads at all, because so much storytelling is like how I've managed to grow a business. And I feel like a lot of that gets lost in advertising, especially if you have a small budget. You're pushing a product, and I really accidentally started this business because I was really passionate about style and making things and sharing style with the world and an aesthetic of clothing. So I didn't come at it from a place of, I have this whole strategy mapped out and I'm going to sell. I came at it from a place of like, this is my ethos, this is my aesthetic. You like it, you buy into it, I'm sharing it with you. And then it just kind of accidentally snowballed into something that I had never planned for or never imagined. But through that process, what felt very easy for me for marketing was just being real and showing up and sharing my process with people and talking about what it's like to run a business and being extremely transparent. I think that's such a trend and a buzzword in marketing now, but it was just how I functioned. It was just what felt really natural. What felt very unnatural was speaking in this salesy way and trying to push a product in a language that I didn't speak. So being just who I was and showing up on digital platforms like that and events and on social media and an email like that is really, yeah, I think continues today to be the easiest form of content for me to make because it's just me. It's just very natural.
And that's what works the best. And as you're saying, and it's showing them that you care. It's not
Totally.
something
Yes.
through. So
Yes. I really think too that you have to create the customer you want, and that marketing is really just training your customer to be the right customer for you and your brand. And so I use marketing as like little tidbits of training. If I want them to know something about how a product is made, or I want them to understand why something costs what it does, I explain that to them. And so along the way throughout the years, by leaving all these breadcrumbs of content, people do understand and become trained to be the right customer for your brand.
yeah, I was watching some of your Instagram videos before the interview, and I was inspired because what you can see as a customer, as a typical customer, as I don't know, the fabrics or the pattern of a, let's say, t-shirt or whatever. It's like, I like it or I don't like it. But you were showing like what inspired you to create that, showing yourself in your studio with your laptop, trying to create that, the inspiration, the image you took, I think it was in the picture you took in Alaska and used as a background. So it's like, okay, so now I see that and it has a story, and I see that there's something genuine behind that. It's not a pattern for me or for your customers. It's way more than that. I can see through you and through your content the value of what you're doing.
That's cool. I'm really happy that comes across. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
I think too, it's like when I started this, I started with a $100 sewing machine in my parents' basement. I was really small, and today we're still really small. But there was this element of all of these big companies trying to scale quickly. And when you're really tiny, there's a little bit of shame involved in it where you're like, I need to pretend to be bigger than I am so people take me seriously. And I did that for a minute. And then I realized like, that's just kind of fake. And it's really hard to pretend that you're bigger than you are and be really transparent and show this like, yes, I am doing the photography here. I am building the website here. I'm not going to pretend that I have some huge agency doing all this for me. I think that creates community in a different way.
Yeah, I've been discussing that with some founders too, and I won't pretend I've never done that because I would be lying. We all want to pretend at some point that we are bigger than we are, or that we have more experience than we have, like everyone, right?
Yes.
But the main thing that I get from all the conversations that I had is that you need to use your, let's say, company, team, brand size to your advantage, because the big guys many times don't care about what you do. Are not fast, to move and to evolve, and people in this era probably they don't care as much about them, and if you can show them that you care, you're there for them, you give them a personalized experience, you have their support, like I think that people can tell. So people, today's an advantage. It's like, what can I do due to my size that the big guys cannot do? And I have
Totally.
amazing founders who, they are thriving in very competitive industry. Like these, I don't know, Canadian companies, like a men's underwear company competing against giants, industry giants. It's a very competitive industry. And they had a unique edge. The founders, there are 4 of them, and said, we are going to be the face and the body of the brand. And they are super fun, super entertaining. The content is all about them. And until 2 years ago, it was only the 4 of them and 2 more people, I think. Today, they are over 40.
Wow.
And they have an amazing journey. But the most important thing is that they said, how can we create impact from the acquisition to the branding, to the website, to retention? Like, they call their customers, and with their permission, they record the conversations, holding the phone on speaker, and they record themselves having a conversation with the client, and it's a fun conversation. And the good ones, they use those for the ads, right? So it's in the ads, they have like they show multiple things at once. One, it's a genuine ad. Second, they show the audience that they care about their customers because they are calling them. And third, it's social proof. Customer is saying great things about them on speaker.
Totally.
And of course, fourth, it shows the personality of a brand.
Yes, it totally does. And good organic content creates great ad content.
Yeah. So let's talk about events. Before going to the ads era, you said that you started leveraging events. What kind of events are we talking about? Did you host events? Did you attend events? Both? For the events you attended, were you a speaker or just in the audience? How do you approach people? Yeah.
Yeah.
What worked for you?
Well, it's changed so much over the years. Back when I first started, it was a way to sell, and it still is very much so a way to sell, but it was a very focused on revenue generation back in the day. I had an Etsy shop for the first couple of years. So it was just a way to get in front of people and get the brand out to more people. I would do a lot because I was hand making each piece back when I first started. It was very much so an art. And I was doing these like high-end art fairs all over the country, like going to Chicago and these beautiful art fairs in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and like every possible event I was there. And then I started going to more athletic events like yoga festivals and marathon expos and selling stuff there, participating in some sort of, mostly they were selling events, but I would definitely go to like brand building and sort of founder connective events. But today our event strategy paused over COVID for sure, but we host a lot of events now. Still heading to an outdoor expo next week. We still go to a lot of different marathon and race-based expos, but we have customers, very strong local community, and then we have customers all over the country. So we'll like go to them and do little activations and pop-ups. Alaska is our hugest customer base. So I head up there a lot. We do photo shoots where we bring people together from different parts. We source our models from our community, and those are mostly local events, but it is fun to take those on the road and get people outside of Montana community to participate in those. We have a really fun building here in Missoula where we're based, and we host events there. We'll do sales. We had a craft club the other night. We had a ski movie a couple of years ago where we brought in a premiere of a couple of women's ski films, and we invited people to come watch them. We have little holiday markets with other brands. We had a big opening party when we opened our building this fall. We had a tattoo artist come and giveaways and screen printing. And yeah, I think now we definitely look at events to drive revenue, but also just to build community and create that experience for somebody where they're then going to, even if they didn't buy anything, go to their friend and tell them about this amazing memory that they have with this brand. And then that's just, word of mouth is still so huge for us.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not a big on events. Well, one, because I work for the US, but I don't live there. So even though I try to go once or multiple times a year there, it's not something I can do every single day. I wish I was there to go to many events.
Yeah.
But based on what you're saying, that things have changed a lot. And back in the day, you used to approach events, or many people used to approach events in a salesly way, or in a more transactional way. Currently, it's more to build community. So what do you do differently today than you used to do in the past? Or to frame it differently, what outcome would you be happy with after an event?
I still definitely have revenue goals for them because they involve lots of travel, booth fees. We definitely have to make some money, but I think just the touch point, getting in front of people, we are so heavily digital and we do the majority of our revenue online. So being able to have physical experiences with our materials is really important. And the experience of watching somebody touch and feel our fabrics for the first time, put those garments on themselves for the first time, step out of the fitting room and be so excited and feel so empowered and feel really confident because the clothes make them feel really good. That's a win for an event for me, because that is an experience that cannot be translated digitally. It's not something that I'm not in our customers' homes when they receive our packages. So to be able to experience that in an event is huge. And I think that's really like the take home for me. I think too, at this point, we have a lot of brand awareness in these markets that we're going to. So when we go to events, there's a lot of brand familiarity already, and that's very exciting. And so it's watching people light up when they see something that they've only seen on the website, but they get to see it in person, or they say, wow, this fabric is so much softer than I could ever have imagined it was just seeing it online. Or they just, I think all of those really tangible experiences, conversations with people, and actually touching and trying on clothing, those are like absolutely what events do for me now.
Yeah, customer feedback,
Mm-hmm.
direct or
Yes.
indirect, looking at how they react, as you said, when they try things on, what they ask you, what they love, what they don't like. So all those things are
Yes.
gold information that brands are paying a lot of money to get online and time as well, and when you get, to see the emotions of someone in real life, let's say, it's priceless as well. So
it is.
I wanted to ask you now, fast forward today, you started running ads a few months ago, right?
Yes, in the fall.
Why?
Because I needed to take some effort off of my plate, honestly. We are a very lean team. We actually had a major shift in our team at the end of the year, and our team shrank by 50%. So last year, for the last 2 years, we've been running our own factory. We built our own factory, and we were making a large percentage of our product in-house. And that was an enormous lift for everybody. And particularly for me, I am the founder, but I'm still the marketing team entirely. We're a marketing and sales team of one. So I'm the only person responsible for bringing in money. And when I was also the person responsible for managing so many other departments within the business, it got to a point where I just was working in a very unsustainable way. And I still am, and I'm trying to climb out of that hole. But I needed to take a little effort off my plate and leverage some of this great organic content that I've been making, and just kind of see if paid ads could be a strategy for some baseline revenue each month. And also got connected with an ads manager who was an incredible recommendation from another brand friend of mine. So it was sort of like right place, right person fit, but we have a small budget. So it's been really interesting to kind of pull some different levers and see how that works. And really nothing performs in the same way that organic content performs thus far, but it's been a very curious experience.
Yeah, thanks to this podcast and the agency, we speak with a lot of brands every single week, and of all sizes, right? And even those brands, let's say 8-figure brands, for example, BattleBox, it's an outdoor brand. They sell a lot of, gear for, outdoor adventure. They even have their own TV show on Netflix, and they produce a lot of cool content. They have their own reality show. Like, they put a lot of efforts for the content. They have almost, I think it's 800K subscribers on YouTube, 1 million on TikTok, and in Instagram they have a lot of followers as well. So they have an audience. They have a professional team now, not back then, to record videos. 50% of their sales come from organic. 8-figure brand, right? They still need to do that. Still, for all brands I speak with, all of them, Meta is the number one customer acquisition channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But organic, yeah, of course, if you're spending a small budget, I'm saying this to you and to, everyone who's listening and in the same position, if you're spending a small budget on ads and you have a strong organic position, then of course organic is going to be the vast majority of sales until you spend more to, if you know that you can buy, I don't know, a purchase for the cost of acquisition is, I don't know, $50. I'm just making it up. But you have 2K to spend a month, then you're going to get X, amount of orders. But if you increase that, and you know that more or less the cost of acquisition will be that, which is not the case, never. But if you manage to more or less keep that cost as you scale, then you know that the more you put on the channel and you diversify as well channels, you'll get more organic compounds in a different way, as you know, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the two of them are important. I think that these days brands that run ads and don't have a strong organic position are missing on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But probably the other way around, it happens the same. If you have a strong organic position, that's amazing. But if you don't run ads, of course, you're missing the opportunity to grow and to scale.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. You're kind of missing that sweep of people.
And the other thing is, these days, everyone as e-commerce evolved, the conversation changed. For brands, first it was when you started, probably was Meta was a money making machine. Everyone who put $1 there received I don't know how many out of it. It was crazy, the ROI.
Mm-hmm.
Then COVID hit, 2022 massive layoff. 2023, everyone started to realize that things weren't going to work this way, and that bottom line was a word that mattered, not only top line revenue. 2024 probably was the inflection point, right? And 2025, everyone is talking about channel diversification, right?
Totally.
So organic is important, ads is important, but it goes beyond that. Well, you're doing that, events.
It really does. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting too, just thinking about the timeline post-COVID, we never had enough inventory to run ads for. So that's kind of I think that's an interesting discussion point too. This sort of in 2020, retailers canceled orders everywhere. And so every brand was pretty nervous that they were going to get stuck with a lot of inventory. Yeah. And then there was this huge surge, especially in the outdoor industry where we're heavily focused, just explosive growth, and nobody had inventory. And then the supply chain timelines are just super long. So it took forever to get that inventory. And by the time that inventory came in and was stable, the forecasting had really changed. So we were in a position where we were selling out. We launched product every month. And so we were having these drops and selling out in 30 minutes. And we were like, oh my God, this is supposed to last us 3 months. And so we couldn't get on top of our demand. And then we really over forecasted and we got way too much product. And it's taking a couple of years for us to really climb out of that hole of having too much product. And so that's been another reason why we're running ads, because we actually have stuff to sell. Previously, you would just come to our site and kind of wait until the next drop. But I think that's been an interesting discussion in the outdoor industry, is just the cycle of inventory and how that drives costs and ad spend and need.
Well, recently I had a similar conversation with Montana Knife Company. The exact same thing. It was crazy. They were in a similar position. They said that they were launching a product, selling out. The first time I think it was in hours, then it was in minutes, and then it was in 2 minutes or so. And they couldn't keep up. And once I think a partner of them helped them do the math of how much money they lost in those, times they didn't have inventory and it was a drop, then it became a strategy. They did these product launches, they announced it with a lot of time ahead, but then they figured that they needed some steady probably inventory, so now they have this inventory on the website and they don't sell out as they used to in the past, but it happens.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're at. We had these funny situations too where people were showing up to our drops and scooping up lots of things and then reselling them for way more money on eBay. And that was creating a whole ecosystem of customer frustration. And so, yeah, that was kind of a wild time.
And you took that in-house, right? You built a resale site, is that correct?
Yeah, we have a resale site in-house now because of that whole experience. It's powered by a company called Treat. So they have actually created this incredible platform that allows you to have a branded resale site on your page for a subscription, which is really amazing. So we have a miniature Poshmark on our site where you can buy and sell used Ewer to other Ewer fans, and you can get brand credit or you can get cash, and it's pretty slick.
And for those, in the audience looking to, implementing some of that stuff, I could think that the first question they could get, or I have, is, does it cannibalize the
The regular site. Yeah, I think that was a concern. We have some strategies in house to make sure it doesn't. So people can upload their own stuff, and then we can have some brand direct stuff. So that's an avenue for us to sell factory
right?
seconds or kind of discounted regular merchandise. So anything that's current and new on the site or part of a recent drop, we do not list it for several months. We hold on to it so that people aren't
Right.
coming and buying the cheaper version. And I don't think it cannibalizes it because we're moving product so quickly and prints are changing and different all the time. So people actually go to the resale site to collect things that they maybe missed out on from previous years. So I think it's been kind of a fun channel. It's been actually a customer acquisition tool because people come in at a lower price point, get a piece of used clothing, really fall in love with it, and then realize that like they're going to save up and buy something from one of our drops at full price. It's kind of fun.
My take, I don't know if you measured these or not, but my take is that even though there could be, how do you say that? An overlap between the two type of customers. I think the two customers are totally different. Like one is looking for secondhand clothing and the other one is not. Again, there might be some overlap. Again, I don't know if you measure this, like what percentage of your regular customers bought there or not.
Yes, there's a little bit of trouble with that because it's a separate company, so a lot of the data is separate. So we don't
Right.
have like a huge handle on the
Okay.
analytics side of it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think it's the majority of people using it are regular customers who are cleaning out their closet, who want more stuff but don't want to accumulate more stuff. So they're selling their stuff to get credit to then buy more stuff from us. So every credit is then used for a higher average order value. So we're making money on every sale there and then also on our full price site, which is kind of an interesting correlation.
And what's the impact of these on your business? Is it contributing a good percentage?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was last year. I want to say it was like, it's small, but it's like 3 to 5% of our revenue every year. So it's like
Nice.
something. Yeah, it's something exciting and it's something fun. And it's also we do final sale on most of our sales because we're made in USA product. Our margins are really small and we've decided it's just not in our best interest financially to accept returns on steep discounts. So if
Yeah.
somebody buys something on final sale and it doesn't sell, well, great. Or it doesn't fit them. We have a built-in platform to help them resell it so that they haven't lost out on that sale. So that's been a fun channel for us to push to.
So you said that you manufacture your products in the US, and I know many brands want to do that too for different reasons,
Yeah.
Like, what's the ups and downs of doing that?
It's been such a journey and it continues to be such a journey. We've been made in the US the entire time. So back when I first started, I was obviously making everything, but that was only a possibility for so long. And because I was going to all these events and meeting all these people and all these other brands, inevitably I met a factory who was US based there. And because I had a personal conversation and relationship with them, it just seemed really easy to kind of transition there. The benefit of being a small brand and making in the US is the minimums here are much lower than Asia. You could make a few hundred of something and instead of several thousand of something. So that accessibility was really pivotal in the early days and still continues to be. We don't make a high volume of very many things. We do like a lot of things in small volume. And the communication as one person seemed easy. We don't have to have a liaison or a broker to translate. We can hop on a plane and be at a factory in an hour or two, which is really awesome. But it does come with a lot of challenges because it's extremely expensive and the manufacturing industry in the US it has changed dramatically over the last 30, 40 years. In the early 90s, so much of it was offshored because of incentives, tax and tariff incentives. So the industry really left in the 90s and it hasn't really regrown. So a lot of the skill set is very localized to specific parts of the country, very much so tied to populations of people who are aging. younger people are not gaining those skills. And it's a little bit, there are little revivals happening in certain parts of the country, but it's pretty bleak. There's not a lot of textile manufacturing happening here. And that's a big challenge for us at the moment because we have some of our highest volume fabric is made in China because it simply isn't made in America. And we import it from China to make it in America. And we pay like a 55% tariff on it now. And that's like really incredible. We're having some crazy tariff changes in the United States over the last month. And it's been really interesting. I think people don't understand the impact that it has on American manufacturing because we don't have a very strong raw materials industry here for many different industries. So yeah, over the years, manufacturing in the US has been really challenging from a quality standpoint. We have always been in a position of moving from factory to factory kind of quickly as we outgrow people or we have quality problems. There's not a lot of accountability, and that's been really hard. I've had probably upwards of $1 million worth of damaged product over my tenure in this business due to bad factory partners. It's pretty wild. And after going through that for so many years and having my business suffer as a result of it, I decided that I needed to bring manufacturing in-house again. So did a big crowdfunding campaign for it in 2021 to be able to build our own thing. And then in 2023, we opened our own factory here in Missoula and we made stuff for 2 years. Not everything. We did 30% in-house in 2023. And in 2024, we did about 70% in-house. But along that journey, and it was extremely hard. This is a tiny state. There's no commercial apparel manufacturing here. We were training people and it got to be extremely expensive and super stressful and hard. And along that way, we ended up getting connected with a factory partner that we really would never have been able to work with back in the day because we just didn't have the business to be attractive to them. And they're just absolute pros. And so we got in this position of saying, should we keep making it ourselves and struggling and having it cost a lot, or do we pivot back to this great factory in California and have them make all of it? So starting in 2025, we went that route. And now we're having it, for the most part, all made in California.
What would be your advice if you have to give like one piece of advice to anyone here listening to this and wanting to manufacture, in the US?
In the US, I would say there's two key things. If you're a product-based business, I'm not really totally sure how it works outside of apparel, but in apparel, we have tech packs, which are these very robust documents that you hand to a factory that gives them super clear instructions of how to make something, what to make it out of, and how to package it. And that is the key. Have an extremely detailed tech pack. Make sure that you are handing off something that's really organized so the factory has no questions about it. And approve samples, like get them to make a sample so that looks perfect. And then when your production arrives, if it doesn't look perfect, you have some sort of legal recourse, which I've had to engage a lot. That's one thing, just being totally detailed and organized in your information. And then another thing I think is really having a great relationship with them. We have a full-time product developer on our team whose job is exclusively to interact with the factory, manage the supply chain, and she talks to them on a daily basis. She calls them and emails them, and that communication is really strong. And your product is the most important piece of your business. If you don't have product, you don't really have anything to sell or anything to make money off of. So putting a ton of energy into making sure that it's made perfectly and not letting that take a back seat is something we've been focusing on a lot lately.
Yeah. And is this person responsible for getting, going from concept to sales in just 6 weeks?
Yes. So Sarah is our product developer and designer and supply chain manager. We wear a lot of hats here, and she does all of our technical design. So I do a lot of the product line planning. Her and I kind of do that together, but I ultimately decide what the stuff is that we're going to make. And she does all of the pattern making and sample making in-house, which is kind of a unique thing. That's what allows us to get things rolling pretty quickly, is we could develop a product in under a week in-house as long as we have the right materials, because we have a full-time staff member who's sewing and making patterns and tweaks. So yeah, we've taken a couple things from concept to sales in a very short period of time. A lot of it has to do with our fabric availability. We have a lot of custom made fabrics, which are much harder to pivot on, but we do have a lot of stock fabrics that we print. So we do a ton of sublimation. Like a huge piece of our brand is bright colors and bold prints. So we have a stock of just blank white fabric in LA. And if we have an idea, we just print it on there. Our printer is extremely fast and we ship things around and we can cut and sew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting and unique probably is that we were talking about the challenges of, manufacturing products in the US a few minutes ago. And you have like a video series called Slow Fashion Math or something like that.
Yeah.
On Instagram, would you like to tell the audience more about it and why you started that and like why do you do that and what do you do in the videos?
Yeah. So I have this series called Slow Fashion Math where I try to release one a month. I am the content creator for the brand too. So sometimes it's not every month because I have a lot of things to do, but it's a video that breaks down a different one of our products in each video, exactly how much it costs to make that product. And the impetus for that came from what I mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation is training your customer and creating the customer you want. Because we're made in the US, our price point is high. It's not a cheap product. And I think it's very easy for people to be like, oh my God, that's really expensive and discount it. And yeah, it is expensive. But if you understand what goes into it and why it is the price that it is, it's actually no longer expensive. So sharing those costs was actually a way for me to educate our customers so that they stopped complaining about how expensive our stuff was. And it's worked really well. We had a few years ago, one of the videos that I posted on TikTok went viral and got picked up by BuzzFeed and a couple other outlets. And it wasn't a series at that point. And that is what spurred me to make this a series. Yeah, I talk about like, this is how much it costs for a fabric. This is like for this, like say I'm talking about a dress. Fabric is this, cutting is this, manufacturing is this, tags and labels are this. Here's how much it costs to ship. And then I get that landed cost. And then I always talk about the operational costs that you don't see factored into that. And that's like the cost of the salaries of our team and our software to design this stuff and any sort of ad spend or photography and cameras and equipment to sell it online, the cost of our website, just all these little like kind of small business finance ideas. I think I've gotten really into the economics of business and I work in numbers every day. So it's become a passion of mine to share that with people. And I think it's really educational to get the consumer really thinking critically about what they use and what they consume. I think it makes us better consumers.
What feedback do you get?
People love it. People love it. I have recently started to drop these little Easter eggs into the videos because when you're the face of your brand and you're on social media all the time, people are really terrible. Like there's a lot of positivity, but there's a lot of really rudeness and there's a lot of trolls. I remember one video that I had that went viral that was about a dress. Like dozens of people were on there telling me my armpits were fat. So now I lean into that a little bit and I wear really weird things or I do annoying things. Like I don't wear socks and I wait for those people to be like, ew, why is she not wearing socks? So there's like a mix of it. It's like majority very positive. People are really educated and excited about the information. And then there's always people who are going to complain about dumb stuff.
I can tell you that's perfect because I think that every piece of marketing that you create needs to attract the right people and repel the wrong people.
Totally.
So if you don't like that, perfect. It's clear that they're not for you and vice versa. But for those who love it, you show them the best version of yourself and or something that I said, something different, but something that you love and thus they will love too because they love what you create, right? If they love your brand. So that's
exactly. Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if you know the brand Little Saints.
Yes.
I had Megan Klein here in the podcast. I found her, and she was telling me that she dresses, they sell, for everyone in the audience who are not familiar with the brand, they sell mushroom-based cocktails, so non-alcohol cocktails. And she, and I think the co-founder too, they dress as, the ingredients, mushrooms, sudamia, reishi, lion's mane, etc. So, and they dress like that in the videos. and they dance. And she said here, and I quote, "I don't care looking like an idiot because I love what I do and people love what we do and it works and we have fun. So we'll do it every single time." And they do it in real life. They do it for online content. They don't care. And yeah,
It's a really
amazing
important lesson.
founders. And so, yeah, it's just keep being you. And if people don't like that, great. You're not for
Totally.
them person. That's amazing. But the most important thing for those listening to this and probably are, let's say, shy or for some reason don't want to be on camera or be the face of a brand, what would you tell to those people?
I would really encourage you to try and get yourself to a place of being comfortable to be the face of your brand. I do think that you don't have to be somebody who's great at speaking or an incredible actor or really confident in front of the camera. In fact, I think that those things come with time and practice. But I do think that being a real person who maybe is shy and awkward, showing up on camera, that's extremely relatable to people because the majority of people are like that too. You look in the comments and videos, it's all people who are not making their own content. They're sitting there behind their screen saying things about other people, but they're not making their own. So just being a real person and feeling confident enough to share that real version of yourself with the world takes some inner work. And it does take a little bit of separation. You have to put enough of your soul into it that it feels genuine to people, but you also have to be able to disconnect the haters and the negative comments from reality a little bit too. I think that that's everybody's biggest fear is that they're going to put themselves out there and someone's going to hate it. But if you put yourself out there, the people that are hating it are not the people who love you. Like the people that are really close in your personal and real life are your friends and your family. And those people are showing up on your videos in support. People who hate you, you don't even know them. They don't even know you. And every negative comment I look at as a huge advantage because it drives your content into a better algorithmic space and it gets your content in front of more people. So I actually love hate comments now. I used to be very impacted by them, but now they're just like fuel to get my brand out in front of more and more people.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Before you go, I wanted to ask you, do you have any book that you can think of that you like and love to share with the audience?
Yes, I love, as a very visual person, I have struggled to get through like all of these business books that every founder should read. I've listened to a lot of them. I've read bits and pieces of them. So my recommendation is actually a very visual book, and it's called In the Company of Women, and it is by Grace Bonney. She started Design Sponge, which is a really, I don't even know if it's still around, but a very big design blog back in the day. And it's this beautiful coffee table hardcover book that chronicles 100, I think, different creative women. And she asks each woman the really similar set of questions. And it's very real. It feels like you get a snapshot into the brains of so many different women across so many different platforms. They're musicians, they're bakers, they're business owners, they're artists, they're fashion designers. So being a creative leader, I find that to be really interesting. If I'm going through a difficult time, I like to flip through that book and hear people's stories and histories, because I think that we get into this place where we look at people on social media and see that they're very successful. We have this idea that they're very successful, but we don't necessarily know if that's the truth, and we don't know how they got there. So pulling back the lid a little bit and diving into that is something this book does really well.
Amazing. We have a new book for the list. So I love that. And it's different from, what everyone typically brings up here because typically it's, business books or, something related to not only commerce, but business, mainly entrepreneurship, etc. And in this case, I love that it's a different thing. For everyone listening to this or watching this, why not? If you go to the DTCinsider.com and find the episodes, you will find a link to this book and, of course, the website of your and many other links that we will leave there. So, Mallory, I wanted to thank you for coming to the podcast. I had an amazing time. It was a very interesting conversation. So, thank you for being in the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoy listening to your podcast, and I love the stories that you share. So I'm really excited to have been on it. Thank you.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.